Well, let's roll the intro. So, greetings, dwellers of the game sphere. This is AkudeCast, and you're listening to the AkudeCast. This is the episode number 2, and tonight I want to talk about a couple of things. First thing is, how am I feeling about For Honor, which is, you know about it, of course. This is a game that is making a lot of buzz around the internet in this period, and everybody's talking about its similarities with fighting games and how much this game is awesome and stuff like that. But I have a kind of different opinion about this, and I don't really want to share with you what I think about it, which may upset some of you, many of you, I guess. That's the fun of it. We can have a little discussion about it, and hopefully I'll get some feedbacks, and some of you can comment on my thoughts while during the stream, or maybe later when I upload this to YouTube. So, and the second thing I want to discuss a little bit about, it's the capsation event that AMD ran at GDC just a few hours ago, which was very interesting from different perspective, not just from a PC gamer perspective like mine, but also for console gamers, because some of this stuff can have a big impact on console game development in the coming months and in the coming years, of course. So let's begin, and let's start talking about For Honor. Well, I really don't like the game, first and foremost, and there's many reasons why I don't like it, and not also why I don't like it, and also why I don't get why people are so excited about this game, because I think it has so many usual flaws from recent games. So I'll break this down by some points. And the first is, first of all, I'm a fighting game player, and you know it, and of course I'm gonna make this comparison between the game because everybody's talking about this, even inside the fighting game community. Many players are loving this game, and they're saying stuff that doesn't quite resonate with my experience with the game, which is weird. I'll try to explain myself. So, first off, the controls of this game are so wonky. It's I find them unintuitive. I don't know how to explain it, but the characters feel clunky, feel slow. I get there is this kind of realism that Ubisoft went for with this game, but there's no point in making movements that realistic when you are not doing anything else realistic, really, because the setting alone is pure fantasy. You know, you're pitting together samurais and medieval warriors and Vikings together. So there's nothing there's nothing real about that. So I don't think you would need to go super realistic on the movements and on the fighting and all the kind of gameplay aspects of the game, even though somebody may find that really interesting. I don't know, but anyway, controls are weird to me, especially when the movement in itself is really clunky, and when you get into the fighting stance, into the dual stance, when you narrow your attention to your opponent, that's even worse, because all your movement option gets limited and your viewing angle gets narrow. I don't know, it's weird. So the controls are the first thing that immediately felt awkward to me when I tried the game. And there's all the or what the people are calling similarities with fighting games, which I find untrue, actually, because the pillars of fighting games: spacing and timing. And although people are talking about spacing and timing as core mechanics of this game, I don't feel like they are at all, because spacing, for example, when you're fighting one-on-one, when you're dueling somebody, you have to kind of aim at them and focus on them to be able to have access to the whole moveset of your character. And when you aim at them, the field of view shrinks down, narrows, and this camera, which is a third person, like over the shoulder third person camera, really doesn't help the player to properly gauge the distance between him and his opponent. I couldn't understand when I was in range for my attack and when I wasn't. So what happened is it's too easy for me to whiff moves just because I thought I was in range for them, and instead I wasn't, because it's much easier to gauge distance from a wider angle camera or a taller angle camera from above. You can gauge the distance of your opponents much more easily that way. But with this kind of narrow view, this narrow down view and this narrow down camera, actually I'm not able to space my attacks correctly, which is really weird, which is not a thing that I expect from a game that many people consider to be some sort of action 3D fighting game. I don't feel like spacing is you have that much enough control over spacing in this game that you can call it somewhat a fighting game, and also timing, because timing in this game is disrupted by the whole tree stancing UI thing, because you have to actually, it's not direct. The control of your moves is not direct, because you have to make two choices. You have to choose one of the three directions, the three stances, so it's the overhead and the left attack and the right attack, and then choose the strengths of your attack, and then maybe what kind of combo or special attack you want to do. So that thing keeps time. It needs more time to react to what the opponent is doing, just because you have to manage these many things, which is a stupid way of complicating things, I think, in a combat system. And you don't need to have more UI for a fighting game. You need to reduce the UI. The less UI you have to be aware of during the fights, the better the gameplay experience is, in my opinion, because you have to just learn what your character is doing based on what the inputs you are doing on your controller, and react immediately to what your opponent is doing, which is not happening in this game, because you have to be aware of your little triangle UI and then your opponent's little triangle UI, and then you have, I think there's too much filtering between the real action and the people who is controlling the action. I don't think timing is a real factor. It's more like, I don't know, it feels like you have to weather the storm and then try to attack back every time. There's no there's no math in this game, which it may sound a little bit weird, but in real fighting games there's a lot of math. Well, not a lot, it's simple math, but there is somewhat of precise way of calculating when you can attack and when you have to defend. So I don't know. So timing also, which is a core mechanic in every fighting game. I think the control over timing in this game is missing, is really lacking. And then there are also other things. So with timing and spacing also comes your surrounding awareness. So the control over the environment. How can you factor the environment into your strategy, into your fight strategy? And this game, I think, it lacks that as well, because same thing, because the view, the player view is so narrow. You actually don't see very much of the environment when you are focusing or what your opponent is doing, because you have, of course, again, UI is another obstacle that hinders this kind of aspect of the gameplay, because you have to focus on the UI and you have to focus also on the other character animations, and then your camera view is so narrow, and so your environment is not that much important anymore when you consider all the stuff that you have to watch. You have to be focusing on while playing, especially while dueling. So that's another thing I think this game lacks, is leveraging your the environment in the gameplay itself. And also when you're not just dueling one-on-one, but when there are other players involved, and also that kind of lesser infantry minions kind of characters that can attack you just can't focus on them or on other characters, on other players when you are dueling, just because when you duel you just have to be really, really focused on what is happening directly in front of you. And I don't know, there's most of what makes a fighting games really competitive and challenging and interesting and intuitive also is lacking in this game, actually. And I wanna tell you a little funny story about our fighting games should be intuitive, and a game like this should also be intuitive, since it's often compared to a fighting game. And this is the story of how I first understood the concept of futsis, which is a fighting game term that means basically spacing your attacks and walking in and out of the opponent's range, and controlling the pace of the match based on your position and the reach of your attacks. So kind of like that. So I was 10 years old, and I was playing Tekken 2 actually on my PlayStation, the first PlayStation, and it was a 35-ish years old guy, a friend of my family, that came over, and he came over with his mother, which was a almost 70 years old lady, very sweet 70 years old lady, that they came in and saw me playing Tekken, and what they did, they wanted to basically they want to play each other, mother and son. So I didn't do anything, I didn't explain anything, I just give them controllers, let them pick some character, and I let them fight. I didn't say anything at all. And what happened was really interesting because so his mother, the old lady, chose Anna Williams, of course, because her name was actually Anna. I think his son picked King, if I'm not wrong, because he was a long time Tiger Man fan, the anime, So they picked their characters, and what the old lady did was really interesting. She understood the basic concept of fighting games at first glance way faster than I did, because I just had to wait her show me how the actual core of a fighting game works. She just did this. She pushed every face button one after the other and watched what they did. So she watched all the normal attacks come out of Anna, and she picked the longest reaching one, which was a tree. Tree. The left kick was just a really long high kick with that hit with the actual heel of the shoes, and she just stood there and just waited for his son character to come in range. And as soon as he did, she would just push that button and poke him to death, and he died. Man, he died. She kicked his ass just by pushing that one button at the right time, at the right distance. And I was like, whoa. So that's how you play this game. And just mashing buttons and jumping all over the place. And that tells me that game, Tekken, was intuitive. It was self-explanatory, which it didn't need tutorials and guides and tips and stuff, and it didn't even need me explaining the game to them. It just worked. She that was a 70 years old lady, just picked it up like that. So that's not happening with For Honor. It's not that intuitive like a game like that should have been, in my opinion. It's not intuitive. You have to go through tutorials and really learn the mechanics and really get used to the control scheme, which is not usual. I don't know, it's not familiar for me, and I guess it's not familiar for anybody at this point. So I was disappointed because when I tried For Honor, I went in with great expectation because everybody was talking so great, so good about this game, and everybody in the fighting game community was saying to me that it's great, it's competitive, it's technical, it's strategic, it's tactic, and all the stuff. But I find it really boring, because when a game like this comes out, I just want to be able to pick it up and play it and enjoy it. But there was too many walls to climb before I actually get into enjoying it a little bit. And when I did enjoy a little bit of it, I was already bored with it. So it's weird. I feel like I'm the only one who doesn't like this game, but I think I made a clear enough point about why that is, and I'm really curious to know about you guys, what you think about this game, and if you agree at least with something with me. At least partially, I don't know, or maybe you just think I'm a moron and I don't understand the game at all, which is totally plausible that I don't understand it and I just don't like it because I'm ass at it. I don't know. It's weird. It's not a game for me. And also I tried the duel stuff, which I thought it was maybe the more competitive and the more interesting mode to play, and then but there was actually I had trouble finding people playing that mode, so I tried to go and try the other mode. I don't remember its proper name, but the thing that it's kind of like a MOBA. It's 4-on-4, and then you have to capture some points of the map and keep them. So I went in and tried this other mode, maybe thinking, okay, maybe with teamwork and team play, it could be more interesting. I don't know, but I found that even worse than dueling, because there was so much chaos and there was not much meaningful thing to do. And what I mean by meaningful is when I do something in a game, any kind of action, I kind of want to feel its impact in the game, and that's what feels meaningful to me. I do an action, I perform an action in a game, and I want to understand what kind of impact that action has had on the actual game. And I didn't feel that. It kind of felt like meaningless when I was just killing these minions, these hordes of minions coming at me, which these shorter warriors that just died with one swing, and every swing looked like a elaborate weird finishing move, but it was always clunky because there was hundreds of people around while I was performing this stuff, and then maybe some other player would get mixed in the fray, and I wouldn't be able to get to the opponent in time because there was all this kind of useless characters to get rid of before. Well, I don't know. It was just chaos. I don't feel like, even if maybe while playing that kind of mode, if you happen to get in front of just one opponent, it can be fun to duel at that time, and also trying to be aware of the surroundings and avoid any incoming attack from other players or from other minions. But it always felt like a rumble to me, just a kind of messy rumble. 2-on-2, maybe 2-on-1, maybe 3-on-1, maybe 4-on-4, and that's, I don't know. Every situation was kind of confusing to me. I didn't feel like I was doing something with a set objective in mind, other than get there, try to capture the point, try to keep it, and then die for some reason. I don't know. I got bored pretty fast, so I'm not pretending to know every nuts and cranny of the game. So I won't pretend that I tested for so long. I tested the game for so long that I can have a better opinion than everybody else on the game. But just as a first impact on me, the game was really not that great. Presentation-wise was awesome. Graphics, sound effects, music, the costumes of characters, I really love them. Although the characters don't have that much personality, I have to say. They feel to me like empty shells, like empty armors. I don't know. Then there's no personality in the character itself. It was just like I'm selecting a moveset from my dummy character, which is not that great in my opinion. You have to. For me at least, you need to get attached to the characters you pick in some ways. maybe because they think they're cool, maybe because they like you like their style, and of course you get attached to one particular play style. But I think in For Honor, the lack of personality for the character is also a really big drawback for me personally. I would love to have actual characters instead of just classes of characters like they are right now. So I don't know. For me personally, it's not worth the purchase. I would have played a little bit more if it was free to play, I have to say, but that's not what I expect from a full price release. In terms of fun factor, in terms of gameplay, polish and stuff, I feel everything feels just kind of weird when I play it. Movement is weird. Even the dodging kind of seems meaningless because I never understand. I never can tell if I'm gonna get it before the actual it comes, which is something I should be able to understand from my movement and from the opponent's animation attack. And I felt like I was just trying to avoid attacks with this kind of dodge move that the character can do while in fight stance, and I don't know, it just feels weird. And in that regard, I have to say that in my opinion, the only 3D action kind of game that really has many things in common with the fighting game, and has the same competitive feeling and potential, and has this basically the same structure of a fighting game as far as combat design goes. It's the Dark Souls series. Many people can say that to you because in Dark Souls, the characters' moves are just like in fighting games, are designed around frame data, like in fighting games. They have frames from, or they have startup frames, active frames, recovery frames. They deal block stun and hit stun that is measured in frames. So there are turns that the player have to respect when they are fighting each other. That's proper spacing. Movement is really meaningful. There is even execution in some ways. There are weird techniques you can learn and try to exploit with your controller. And so I think that's the 3D action game that comes the closer to being an actual fighting game. In fact, one time I thought about this, that if Dark Souls had a mode in which you had, instead of your own character, that you can build the way you want, because that, of course, how the game is built around these character building makes for an unbalanced experience as far as dueling goes, of course, because every character can be on a different level, have different gear and stuff like that. So of course the duel are not evenly matched every time. But if From Software for some reason decided to release some kind of Dark Souls arena game with set characters, maybe taken from Dark Souls lore, which is amazing, I think that would be a really, really special game from the esports scene, because it has all the mechanics all the basic stuff, and also the readability and ease of viewership that fighting games have. And I think something like that could be very successful as an esport, as a fighting game, as an actual fighting game. Also in fighting games events, maybe. So if somebody at From Software is listening, think about doing some kind of Dark Souls arena game. Would be amazing, in my opinion. In my opinion, would be really, really, really good. Would basically destroy everything that can look mildly competitive about For Honor, in my opinion. So that's my take on this new game. I hope everybody who's playing is actually enjoying the game, because it's fun. Yeah, it's fine, and we need more different games coming. I like the idea of For Honor. I just like the execution. I just find it boring to play. But that's just me. And I think it's actually literally just me. I think so. So I don't know. Maybe I can spark some kind of criticism view on the game in you guys, and maybe you can, I don't know, just tell me what you think about it. So that's it for Honor. Let's move on to the next topic of this evening, which is the Capsaicin event that AMD just did a few hours ago. So this event was everybody was expecting maybe some kind of information about the new GPUs release, the VEGA GPUs release, but Raja Kadori, actually, which is the Radeon Group CEO, just came out, and the first thing he said was, "We are not launching any product today," which was mildly disappointing, just because I actually expected it to be the case. So I don't think that's the problem there, and I wasn't upset about hearing that, but many people, I think, would be have been. So what they actually showed and what they actually talked about was feature of the VEGA architecture and platform from a more broader perspective. So I won't stay here and just talk about everything they said, because there's some technical stuff and not everything is really important for me or for the end consumer. But there were a couple of things that piqued my interest, and then I think I could elaborate on and bring some interesting points about. The first was this feature called High Bandwidth Memory Cache Controller, which basically tells that with VEGA GPUs, the actual usage of the VRAM on board is much more efficient. So that means that you can, I'll tell it very, very simply, that if you have this feature activated on the card, you can have the same performance of let's say a 4 GB VRAM card with the same card having just 2 gigabytes of RAM. Because in modern graphics card, current graphics card, the usage of the VRAM is not as efficient as people can think. And it's not only a thing about hardware, but mostly about how software implementation is done in games. And so there are many games that don't actually use the whole memory buffer on graphics cards. and actually the percentage of usage of the memory on graphics card can vary between 25 and 50, and maybe sometimes, if you're lucky, 60% of the actual capacity of the memory, and the actual bandwidth of the memory. So performance are actually hindered by current memory controllers. So if this high bandwidth memory cache controller is actually doing what they tell it's doing, it could have a real impact in future graphics card prices. And that's the interesting part for us, the consumers, because if you can have the same performance of a 4 gigabytes card with just 2 gigabytes of RAM installed on the graphics card itself, it means that you can maybe have cheaper cards having nice performances. For example, the thing is, as Kadori said during the event, onboard VRAM is a big chunk of the actual end price of a graphics card. That means that if they manage to reduce the need of big VRAM of big capacity VRAM on the graphics card, they can also bring down the prices while keeping the performance where they are, which is nice to hear, and it's nice not only for PC gamers, but it's a nice news also for console gamers, especially for gamers who are waiting for Scorpio, for Xbox Scorpio. And why that is, if Scorpio is actually using VEGA hardware, that probably means it has this high bandwidth memory cache feature enabled on it. And that also means that the rumored 12 gigabytes of RAM would be used to their full potential in this case, and that's really nice for a console which has set in stone hardware. And as game developers try and learn to exploit these kind of features more and more with time passing, we might see this console do really well in the future. I think if this feature really does what they say it does, and I think it's nice. I think this is a nice news for everybody, for PC gamer and for Xbox fans alike. And then there was another piece of news that they break out, which is kind of, I don't know if it's unexpected or not. It was kind of unexpected for me, but there were hints here and there for this to happen, but I actually never thought about it myself. So AMD Radeon is actually doing a pretty big partnership with Bethesda, and this partnership consists in optimizing every Bethesda title for AMD hardware. And why is that important? Not only for PC games, because console have got AMD graphics card on them and also CPUs. And this deal was not just to optimize GPU performance on all the Bethesda titles, also to optimize multi-threaded performance by the new Ryzen CPUs. And that means that console which are already 8-core CPUs could take advantage of these improvements, very much so. And so Bethesda is a pretty big player in the gaming industry, we know that. So them doing this kind of really strong partnership with the hardware makers from the company that makes the actual hardware for console. It's a really big deal for everybody. And so they have a dedicated engineering team, both from AMD and Bethesda, that are working on this kind of extreme optimization of AMD capabilities for Bethesda titles. And it's really nice. They said they were doing it already for Prey, which is coming out soon, but they were going to do it for every other game in the past. So I'm thinking about Skyrim. I think about Fallout 4, and I think about also Dishonored and everything, and every other game under the Bethesda umbrella. So it's really nice to hear. First, because I really like the fact that AMD is coming back strong in the gaming market and giving Nvidia a run for its money, just because it's not only Nvidia, and not only from the GPU side, also from the CPU side. It's really nice to see AMD coming back strong in both areas and try to compete with both Intel and Nvidia, because right now both Intel and Nvidia are just sitting on their asses because they have a complete control of the market share for their respective sector of the market. So it's really important that AMD gives them some trouble, so they can just have this big wake-up call and start doing stuff the way they used to. So it's better for everybody. Having a very competitive marketplace for both PC and console industries. So what this capsation told us about the future of console gaming? I think this told us that AMD is here to stay in the console space, because when you're talking about software optimization, that's the field where console development is king above everybody else, just because they need to. So AMD talking not only of raw power, which is what they did back in the day when they released the Fury X and or the other high-end graphics card, the VEGA chips and stuff like that. But they are talking more about optimization, that they are talking about raw performance, which is the actual important thing. Of course, they are going to release some pretty powerful hardware. They just disclosed the actual branding for the new graphics card, which is called RX VEGA. I don't know if there will be different SKUs, like RX VEGA something, RX VEGA 580, 590. I don't know. They just said that the next graphics card will be called RX VEGA, which I like it. I'd say I like it. So what I was talking about, okay. The thing is, they are thinking about software first, and this would only benefit every gamer, let's say. And every optimization any of these partners they have showed, because of course Bethesda is the one that pops up really quick among their partners, but they have many partnerships. They showed a lot of partnership in the VR area, which I don't really care about right now, but it's important to see they are moving in every direction. So every partner is going to take advantage of these new VEGA features, are going to take that experience and bring it to the console development, especially if Scorpio actually uses VEGA technology. which is really, really, really a big thing. It's really important to know that some kind of crossover is happening. Developing experience crossover is happening. It's really important for us gamers to know, and makes me hope that both area of gaming, both console and PC gaming, have a bright future ahead of them. So it was an interesting event, and pretty much what I took away from it is that we're in for a pretty interesting 2017. I hope to see some big surprises coming up, especially at next E3. I'm really curious about E3 2017, because I actually don't know what's gonna happen this time around. Maybe this is the first time that I actually cannot predict what's gonna happen, especially at the Xbox event. I really don't know what they will come up with. I really don't know. Well, they actually dropped the bomb just today, and I'm happy that they took this out of the way before the conference, which is the Xbox Pass, they call it, which is a $10 a monthly subscription for games, which is kind of like EA Access actually. And I think that's a smart idea, because they have to understand that $70 for one game is a steep price. Console prices are really high as far as games go. So this kind of service-based game business model, I gotta like that. It's like the Netflix of gaming. Kind of makes sense, and hopefully the games they put in the program would be worthwhile, because if they do, I probably give it a try. Although I'm not playing on the console that much anymore, I'm very much keen on trying the service if there are some serious gaming coming to it. So let's hope it bodes up well, and anyway, I'm really happy they came and said this, came and talked about this right now, and they've not took 10 minutes off the E3 conference for just to announce this kind of feature. So I'm happy about that, at least. We'll see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic about this year's E3, just because I think Xbox need to be desperate at this point and come out guns a-blazing and hit us with some big news, some big new stuff we need to see. So hopefully you enjoyed my podcast. It has been like 50 minutes tonight, and I'm talking, and I'm sure I've bored you enough with my mumbling over the microphone. So hopefully this time around it went a little bit better than the first episode, although I'm not really sure, because I'm a bit tired. It's late in the night here in Italy, and I worked all day. I'm feeling kind of down, but hopefully you enjoyed what I had to say, and I hope you can give me some really valuable feedback in the comments below. So see you guys next time. Bye.